Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Converse with Clover. I am Clover A. Perez, and my co-host is
Jacqueline Pulverari.
welcome, Jackie. Today we are talking about what is an evolved man and how does he show up in a relationship. And we are talking to the prolific Lewis L. Reed. We are so excited to have Lewis with us tonight. And Lewis, welcome to Converse with Clover.
Hey, Clover, it's good to be on with you and Jackie.
Hi, Lewis.
Hey,
Yes, we are so excited to see your face. And I'm going to give you this opportunity to tell the audience who Lewis is because a lot of people may not know who you are. I think everyone does, but for those who do not know.
yeah, well, for those who don't know me and for those who do know me, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Lewis L. Reed. I'm a national criminal justice reform advocate by virtue of having served 14 years in federal prison. My past professional experience includes having conceptualized and convincing the largest city in the state of Connecticut that they needed a government office for reentry affairs, at which time I was appointed as Connecticut's first reentry director. I was in that position for about 2 years. We replicated the model across the country. From there, I left that position under fire and went on to do national work with an organization called Cut 50, co-founded by Van Jones and Jessica Jackson, where we passed about 12 to 13 bills that included the Federal First Step Act and a few state versions of that bill, which also included some Dignity for Incarcerated Women's campaigns that was led by Topeka K. Sam. And then from there, I went on to elevate my career where I was the senior director of strategic partnerships and also senior advisor to the executive leadership team at an organization by which Van Jones was the founding CEO of, called Reform Alliance, where Jessica Jackson, incidentally, is the chief advocacy and operations officer as well. Was in that position for approximately 2 years until relatively recently, where I landed in one of two spaces. Number one, I'm the executive vice president of an organization called the Douglas Project, where we focus on humanizing the experiences of people who are incarcerated. And I am also the founder of a film production company called Decoded Story Labs, where we are exclusively focusing on documentary films.
That is awesome.
Wow.
I am so impressed. I've always been impressed with you, Lewis. You have, oh my God, accomplished so many great things. And it's such an honor to be in your presence. So thank you so much for,
Thank you.
showing up today and for entertaining us, because I know it's going to be a very entertaining night.
It
And
is. It
being a
is.
part of this. So lately, we've been hearing the topic, about evolvement. What is the evolvement? And that it's new to me. It may not be to others, but I'm just hearing more about it. And I'm curious to know what is an evolvement, Lois? And
I
what is
don't know. I have no idea. This is the first time I'm actually hearing the term, so I need you to explain it to me. When you explain it to me, I need you to explain it to me like I'm a 4 year old because the way that social media kind of slaps around new terms every other day, it's hard for me to keep up with.
okay? So my definition of evolvement is someone who has everything in order. He shows up with respect. He shows up with love. He's financially
I,
stable.
I automatically disagree with the notion. It's impossible to be human and have everything in order. If you have everything in order, then you are not going to be on this side of life. You've already graduated and made it on to glory, and you should be in the celestial with Jesus and the angels and everybody else. So the notion, just to start off, that an evolved man is someone who has everything is in order is a fallacy in and of itself. But I digress, and I allow you to continue on, please.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, listen, I think that you are an involved man. I do that because you have everything. You have everything in place. You show up in excellent. You have,
But
you have
but
a
let me
love for God.
let me share this with you. Let me share
Okay.
this with you,
Good
and
thing I'm
I
in the
want
middle here because I think I'm going to need to like do some.
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like double dutch. So look, I appreciate the notion and the perception that I may have things in order. And there's certain portions of my life that I do have in order, and there are portions of my life that are completely in disorder, in disarray. And because people see folks like me in a social media feed, you are seeing the best of what it is that I want you to see about me. You are seeing me in a soundbite. You don't necessarily, you see the public success, but you don't see the private failure. You don't see how the dissonance or the estrangement that I have with my child or my children. You don't see the relationship breakdowns that I very well may have, with my mother. You don't know what it's like for me to still be grieving the loss of my father, who was murdered 2 years ago, who was a victim of opportunity. And then a year to the date that my father passed away, I lose my sister. And then I have to take care of, we're responsible for helping, develop and raise her children that she left behind. You don't see the notion of me being a father who lost his surrogate child. You don't see that. And so the notion that I have things all together, that's about as much of a fallacy as me being able to sell you a bridge in Brooklyn, for your EBT card, the worth of your EBT card being revalidated every month. It's just not there. What I am, I'm a very flawed person who's saved by grace. And every single day, I am enveloping God's mercies, and I'm asking for forgiveness, and I'm trying to repent, and I'm trying to recalibrate, and I am trying to reconfigure my life and reinvent myself in a way that was different from the day before.
But I think that is the definition of an evolved man, a man who knows that life is about changes. An evolved man continues throughout their life to learn and grow. Mental health, physical health, it's a lifelong process to maintain. So you described an evolved man.
Right. And it's an evolution every day. You're evolving and you're evolving into greatness, and you should applaud yourself for that, because compared to what we see out there, how these men show up, you are just different.
And who let's make the implicit explicit. Who are these men that we're talking about?
About
Define that for me.
Non-evolved men. It's simple.
That's a good one.
We're talking about a man that shows up in a relationship and expect a woman to take control, right? A woman cannot be soft, all right? A man that is in a relationship with a woman and she can't be herself, right? He doesn't take care of her. He doesn't
Wait. Hold up. Wait, time out. I think that this is too much of an expectation that any woman is putting on a man, that any human being is putting on another human being. I think that there's a notion about men. Let me share something with you. As I've been a man all my life, and I don't want to be anything else. Um,
I'm glad to
no
hear that.
shade. Yeah. I want to share something with you though. There are things that women go through that are very gender specific, that are very unique, that are very sensitive in nature from a hormonal perspective, from a childbearing perspective, from a life perspective.
Menopause.
Compound that. Compound that if you happen to be a woman of color in this world, in a relationship. And so I want to first acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge the fact that men, we go through a lot of things that we don't necessarily talk about. You don't know what it's like to have to, in the criminal justice reform space, for instance, you're fighting for the freedom for other people. You're fighting for policy. You're fighting for change. Sometimes you're fighting to get through traffic, to get home, to be present with your family. And you walk through the door and you confront it with, I ain't heard from you all day. Not, hey, how are you? what is life like for you? We see the worst of the worst. Just specifically speaking about in the criminal justice reform space. Clover, you in the space, Jackie, you in the space. We're exposed to the worst of the worst. And when I'm not talking about the worst people, I'm talking about the worst issues. We're exposed to that. We're exposed to fighting for dignity for women who are incarcerated. We're exposed to fighting for people who are being sent back to prison due to technical violations, and we have to have conversations with their children about why their mother or their father is not home for their birthday. We're exposed to that. That tears at the fabric of who we are as people. And so this notion that the man has to take care of the woman and acquiesce to a woman and be sensitive. Why can't we just as human beings be human beings to other people? My grandmama used to say, my grandmother used to say one of two things in terms of relationships. Love is simple, but it's people who are complicated. She also used to share with me that if two people in a relationship are trying to outdo the other in love, neither one of them will ever lack. Neither one of them will ever lack. Your needs won't lack, your wants won't lack, your desires won't lack, because I'm always trying to outdo you, you're always trying to outdo me.
I like that.
And we're trying to outpace one another. And so I'm never going to have this degree of resentment towards you because I have to be the protector. I have to be the person who's doing everything for you and you do nothing for me. And so I think that this notion of, you know, the man has to do blah, blah. No, don't get me wrong. I do think that there are roles and responsibilities that that may be gender specific, depending on how your relationship is framed. What it is that you touch and agree on in that relationship, that's without question. That's to each his own. What I'm saying is that generally speaking, if two people are out trying to outpace one another in love and care and empathy and dignity and humanness, neither one of them are ever going to lack.
Oh, wow. I agree. And I have to say, and I always, my poor husband, because I drag him in without him even ever being here. But it is also difficult for a man to, as a woman, and Clover and I are in the space. So we are similarly going through facing that every day, fighting for women and to have an evolved man as a husband who's able to take a seat back and just support and say, wow, how was your day? Is also, and so I often say, I come in the door and I'll say, oh gosh, because a relationship's 100%. So I'll say, Dave, I got 60% today. That's it. You got to take the other 40.
Mhm.
And he'll say, all right, I got 40. There's days I have 5%. You need to take 95%. And that balance, that's what I call an involvement. So what you're really describing to me is the notion of you wanting that that characteristic, right, of an evolved man.
Right.
So listen to what you just described, Jackie. You just said that there are times where you don't even have 100% for yourself.
Right.
You don't even have 100% to give yourself. But yet and still, sometimes the notion is that this person that I'm a spouse to, this person that I'm in relationship with, is supposed to give me 100% all the time. Wait, you're supposed to give me 100%
No.
what it is that I don't even have for myself. That doesn't make sense to me. Help
No.
me, please,
No.
Dr. Perez.
No. No. I think that when I am in a situation and I don't feel complete 100%, right? And I would like to be able to draw from my significant other, right? And
Yes.
when
That's what I mean.
he is at his lowest, he can also draw from me. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, I just wanted to
Like if
clarify
I
for the
have
record.
5%, he's got the 95. If I'm
Right.
at 70% today, you know what?
Yeah.
He's at, 30%. And if we're both at like 10%, we got to figure that out because we both need to come up with a lot more percentage
Mhm.
so I think that the notion to me in a true partner is someone who wants to give equally together and that old school, my mother and father, they'll be married 65 years in September.
Think about this, Jackie.
Uh,
Think about this. 65 years. That's beautiful. I think that's something to pause and be celebrated. And if there's a way that you can edit this at Clover where you can just put some effects there, we need to have some celebration, some confetti or something across the screen. Think about what relationships are going to look like in the next 60 years. I can't imagine in the next 60 years that we're going to have people say, hey, we've been together for 40, 50 years. Because everything is so instant. Everything is about me, right? The camera is always on me. When you look in a picture, if you're in a group and somebody takes a picture of you in a group and you don't like the way that you look, never mind the group looking great, but if you don't like the way that you look, you
I'm
like,
guilty.
hey, we need to take that over again.
Guilty.
Right? So everybody is so self-centered that there is not allowance for a 65-year run. And so if you are going to be in a 6.5-year run, the way that relationships are set up nowadays, we have to make sure that we're functioning from a space of grace, from a space of mercy, from a space of love, understanding, and also competency, like how you talked about. Hey, baby, today I ain't got 95. Yo, you know what? I ain't got 95 either. I'm only at 7. So let's take your 7 and let's take my 5
and eat
right?
chocolate.
Right.
And yeah, and we
Together.
now we got to combine 12.
Absolutely.
And we'll figure out what we're gonna do with the 88 tomorrow. But right now, let's do the best with this 12 that we have.
Okay, so you know what, Lewis, I'm going to say this to you. I remember sometime last year, I said something to you about some issues that I was having, right? And one of the things that you said, and since Jackie was not privy to that conversation, so I hope you'll repeat it. You said that I'm the type of person that when in a relationship, when I show up at the door, I'm already given everything. And before I step up stairs with any man, right? I'm already given a lot at the stairs. Can you get into that?
Yeah. So for our viewing audience and Jackie in particular, Clover and we were talking about just some relationship dynamics that she was experiencing. And as a friend, I was sharing with her, I know you well enough to know that when somebody gets you, they're getting your 50% is their 150. So when they get you, they're going to get someone who, in effect, is going to be walking the floors at 3 o'clock in the morning in prayer if necessary. They're going to get the full extent of your resources because you are a charitable person. You're very giving. If you got $10 and somebody needs, 7.5, they're gonna get it. And so what you have to do, and I was sharing with Clover, is that you have to think about the value that you bring. And if you are going to relax your standards, where if somebody can't, if you're loving somebody on a your 2 is the equivalent of somebody else's 10. So if somebody can't meet you in their 10 at the capacity and at the bandwidth that you show up with a 2, your 2 is the equivalent of a 10, then you have to make some decisions as to whether or not you're going to relax your standards, B, if you are going to maintain this relationship without the degree of frustration that is going to bring you, and or C, you have to be prepared to have your resources depleted because this person just can't match your fly. That person can't match your degree of love, of strength, of ...
So how do we find partners today? Because it's very infrequent that we meet people that do match.
Number one, you got to stay off OnlyFans.
Stay off
That's OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Yeah,
Listen, my feet make me a lot of money.
Yeah, all right. But they're anonymous though. That's the first place. The second thing is this. I think that there's a degree of old schoolness in me, as young as I am, having been raised by my grandmother and having been influenced by older people, I think that you don't find a partner as a woman. A partner is supposed to find you. I think that you are the gift. You are the prize. You are the crown. A man asks your hand in marriage. You don't ask a man's hand in marriage or in union or whatever.
Wow. Once
It's
again, I'm
it's
impressed, Lewis.
Yes.
Honestly.
yeah, yeah. Well, you don't look. You just make yourself you make yourself as prepared as you quite possibly can during the interim for that person who discovers you. And that person may discover you at the mall. That person may discover you at your house of worship. That person may discover you at a criminal justice reform conference. I don't know what the context is, but what you do is during the meantime, you make yourself as prepared as you can. And what does that preparedness look like? I'm glad that you asked the question. Number one, you need therapy. You need to work out the issues. You need to work out on your issues, and you need to work out your issues. You need to have a safe space, a brave place where you can go to and you can say, you know what, when I was 5 years old, my dad said that he was coming back to take me to the ice cream place and he never returned. That was the last time I saw my father. And as a grown adult, there's still that 5-year-old child who's peeking from the curtains of her soul, of my soul, waiting for my father to come through the door. And so every time I see a man come through the door, I think that this is a reflection, or vicariously, this is a reflection of my father, and I need to work this out. Right? It may be a version of that. I don't know, but it begins with therapy. The second thing is that you need to have a firm relationship with, personally, I believe, God. You've got to have a relationship with God. You
Absolutely.
need to, you
That is
need,
true.
there's a spiritual component that you need to be activated in terms of being able to have discernment. Is this person here for a good time or is this person here for a long time? The other thing is I'll give you an exclusive based off of a notion that I'm working in a forthcoming book that I have coming out. There are 4 types of people that you need in your life, especially in a companion. Number one, you need someone to embody being a believer. And I'm not talking about a believer in terms of a spiritual perspective, while that has its place. I'm talking about somebody who believes in your potential to go, to grow, to do, to be, to accomplish. You need a believer. In another corner, you need a reliever. You need somebody who's going to pull you into their peace before they draw you into their problems. In another corner,
Say that again. Say that. I love
Yeah,
that.
let's
Say
write this
that
down
again.
so we can
Yes.
utilize
yeah.
this.
Well, look, you need a reliever. A reliever is going to be someone who's not coming with baby mama drama. A reliever is somebody who's not going to have you all stressed out and have you got to is one thing for you to be at the age and stage in life where you got to put the black streaks and the gray hair because you want to for vanity purposes. It's another thing when you got to do it because this this guy
Yeah.
this guy's over here is just stressing you all the way out, right? So you need a reliever, somebody who's going to pull you into their peace before they draw you into their problems. In another corner, you need a conceiver. A conceiver is someone who's going to help you imagine or reimagine. Somebody who's going to say, "Hey, look, I see the gaps in what that plan is, or I see where the distance is in between where you're beginning and where you want to end up at, and let's close these gaps." And last but not least, you need an achiever. An achiever is not necessarily somebody is who has superstar accomplishments, but an achiever very well could be somebody who is accomplished in his own right and is confident in that accomplishment. And so the key is not just to have one isolated from the other. The key is to be able to have somebody discover you who embodies all 4 of those characteristics. Oh, and guess what? The other key is for you to embody all 4 of those characteristics for that other person. And that is where what my grandmama was talking about in terms of when you're outpacing the other in effort, you're outpacing the other in being a believer, reliever, a conceiver, or an achiever, right? Then there's never going to be a lack in the relationship.
Wow, that's deep. That is deep. Where do we find men like that?
Yeah.
right? Because it
They
seems
have to
like
have
I
they
come
have to have a
across,
social work degree like
right,
Lewis.
right.
Yeah.
They have to.
Those that I come across seem to be intimidated by me, and I don't know what is going on.
Well, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
There's a notion that Jesus said, "Is there anything good that can come out of Nazareth?" Right? In my experience, and I'm not saying that you got to go get you a jail pen pal. Please don't go do that. But what I'm saying is this: I do think that there are jewels in undiscovered places with people. And sometimes how you discover that might be through a dating app. It might be socializing at a place. It might be through a networking event. I don't know. But what I do know is that you have to ask questions. Good leaders ask great questions.
Mhm.
And if you are looking to be a co-leader, you're looking to be led, you're looking to be a leader. I don't know, however, your framing of leadership is. In particularly speaking about relationships, you have to ask questions. You got to ask probing questions. The person that you very well may desire might be right in front of you. He might be the mechanic over at Jiffy Lube, or the oil technician at Jiffy Lube. No,
Mm-mm.
yeah, that's because you got a foreign car, Clover. So
No, no,
you
no.
gotta, you're bringing Clover's, she's bringing her car to Mercedes Benz
Yeah,
and the
That's
Lexus building.
right.
Yeah,
no,
she ain't going
That's
to she ain't going
that's
to
the
Jiffy
saying,
Lube.
right?
that's not good. I would
Yeah,
tell you that that's never going to happen. But go ahead.
yeah.
It's true though. I met my husband. He was my neighbor. I wasn't
So
looking.
yeah, so you don't. I would say don't close yourself off to the possibilities. That conversations can be passports to deeper connections, and those deeper connections very well may not. They don't have to materialize in the form of companionship. Sometimes you can meet someone who is a great friend. You know,
Mm.
I consider all of us three. I have respective relationships with both of you. It's not companionships, but it's a relationship nonetheless.
Mhm.
And so sometimes our lives will intersect with somebody else, and we think that is one purpose, and it'll materialize into another purpose.
Right, right.
That is true.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Well, okay. You turned my whole
I
show into
can't ask any of
something
these
else.
questions.
Right, we had a whole list of questions, a litany of things to ask you.
Sure.
But one of the things that I'm going to ask you though, what are some of the signs that a man will never commit to you?
I feel like I am I feel like I'm taking locker room conversations with men, and I gotta make these things public.
Drop it. Go
Absolutely.
ahead.
Yeah, yes. So there's several things. Number one, if he can't commit to himself, if he
Wow.
can't commit to himself.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So I think that's oftentimes we look for external indicators of what people can do or what they can't do, and all you have to do is look at how they commit to themselves. So, for instance, look for little things. Hey, if somebody says, I plan on going to the gym for 3 times a week, and they haven't been to the gym in 3 weeks, and every other night they eating bonbons and honey buns. Well, there's no commitment to themselves there. Look at what that person's relationship with God is, right? If that person can't be committed to authority, spiritual authority, if a person can be committed to whatever their cause and their passion is or their dreams are, what makes you think that they're going to be committed to you? If I'm not going to be committed to what it is, committed to my commitments, then why do you think I'm going to be committed to you? If I'm supposed to be an author, if I'm supposed to be a speaker, if I'm supposed to be a business leader, if I'm supposed to be whatever, and I'm half stepping on that, what makes you think that I'm going to whole step with you?
Right.
Wow,
You
that's a
know,
great way of thinking about it.
yeah. And the other thing is that I'll even venture out to say, look at what a man's commitment is to his family. One of the things that I often tell people, I was just talking to my son about this not too long ago. He was talking to me about some young lady that he's interested in. And I said, how are you vetting her? He said, what do you mean, Dad? I said, how are you vetting her? He said, I don't understand where you're coming from. I said, look, I said, if I were you, what I would be doing is asking that person, how did your last relationship end? And then when she answers, and I say, what about the relationship before that? And he said, well, when I'm asking that question, what am I looking for? And I said, you're looking for one of several things. The first thing is to see how triggered she is, what the emotional response is, see if whether or not she's still tethered to that issue, to those issues with that person. I said the second thing is that you're looking for responsibility and accountability, because no one person can have 100% blame for anything. Right?
We know
And
that.
right, like no one person can have, especially when you have two people involved in relationship with one another. There's equal responsibility. Now the responsibility might be 30 on one end, 70 on it. I don't know what that percentage is, but there is some responsibility that people have to take. And so back to the above, another thing that I would be doing is when you are, having conversations with people that you might be interested in, or people who may be interested in you, you got to ask those questions. Talk to me about the time when you got your heart broke the worst. And see, look, you can ask me that question. I can tell you. I can say that without compunction. There was a relationship that I was in prior to me going to prison, where my then girlfriend didn't only have one abortion prior to going into prison, but when I got locked up, she had another abortion. She was almost 4 months pregnant. Then after she had that abortion, she went and told the feds everything that she knew about me. Right? There's still a degree of hurt that I have in and with that, not necessarily because she cooperated, but because of the loss of the child or children. Right? And so if you ask me that, I'm going to express that to you, not in a sense of bitterness, but I'm going to express that to you in the sense as to where there's a degree of sadness that I feel. Not only that we had that loss, we shared that loss together, but what it is that I did to her as a mother that drove her to make a decision that she not only aborted one child, but two children. Right? And so it's not, you have to think about not what people are saying, but listen to what they're not saying. Listen to that paralanguage. And so again, if people are not committed to themselves, then there's no way they're going to be committed to you.
Right.
Lois, I have a question. It's very personal, but
Sure.
have you gone to therapy?
I am currently in therapy.
I love hearing
So
that, because Black men don't do therapy.
I'm gonna share something with you, and this is the first time that I'm speaking about this publicly. So we can get the exclusive. Hit the button. We can get the exclusive. So in 2021, I began to make a series of very poor decisions, professionally, personally, while I was at what I thought was the top of my professional game at Reform Alliance. I just began to make a series of very, very, very poor decisions. And I realized that this was shortly after my father had passed away. I experienced the loss of my surrogate son, who I was estranged from, and also the loss of my sister. All of these things, at the same, or on or around the same time. I was in my bed one night, and I had an open vision, and I saw my emotions in the form of my body go to a bridge and jump off. It was weird. It was weird. I didn't have a suicidal ideation, but I just saw like my emotions in the form of my body. I was having an outer body experience where I saw my emotions in the form of my body go to a bridge, and it jumped off the bridge. And I got on the phone with Glenn E. Martin, and we were talking, and he was helping me just navigate through the poor decisions that I had made at that time, and just trying to rediscover myself. And I told him about that, and he said, bro, you got to get help. And I'm like, what do you mean I got to get help? I don't need help, right? Like I need to like figure this other stuff out. He's like, no, you got to get help. So what I ended up doing was, here's the exclusive. I checked myself into an inpatient trauma treatment center. out in Florida. Went off the grid, off social media for 6 months.
I remember you were gone for 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. And I was there, and while I was there, there were three things that I discovered about myself. Number one, I didn't realize that I was dealing with anxiety, a form of depression that was acute. The second thing is that I never grieved, not just the loss of my father, not just the loss of my sister, not just the loss of my grandmother, not just the loss of having been shot when I was 14 years old and had to relearn how to walk, not just the loss of my parents being incarcerated when I'm 5 years old, not just the loss of my sister getting shot in the face when I was 13 by her then boyfriend, who she subsequently had a child with 2 or 3 years later, not just the loss of my cousin who was 16 years old and was shot 32 times and killed in front of his mother, not just the loss of my other friend who was 25 years old and who got shot in his face 6 times in front of me when I was 16 years old, but not just the loss of freedom, but I never grieved appropriately anything in my life. I never grieved the loss of my nephew being killed 6 months prior to me coming home from prison. I never grieved the loss of moving from one job into the other. As exciting sometimes as that may be, sometimes you don't close the door. You just move, because society, rightfully so, says when you get out of prison, you have to have your foot on the career accelerator, right? I didn't never grieve the loss of time, just time. And so it was not until I was in that trauma treatment center that I realized, like, I had all of this loss. The loss of not making the right decisions, right? The loss of opportunity that comes inherent with not making the right decisions. And so I was in treatment, and I can tell you that emerging from that experience, it's made me better than how I was before. It's made me much better than how I was before. I'm far much more spiritually cognizant. I am far much more people conscious. In short, the work that I do, and every day that I wake up and I have the opportunity to participate on this side of life, my daily prayer is, God, I want to do 2 things. The work that I do, I want it to be an honor to you and to be in service to other people. That's it. And so that's as a result of me working through my trauma, me working through therapy, me, having a good therapist. I'll say this and then I'll shut up as well, just to add this PS. One day I was talking to my therapist, and I was walking through all of these different things that I had to do from an employment perspective and from a workload perspective, et cetera. And she said, Lewis, she said, what are we? And I said, we're human beings. And she said, say it again. I said, we're human beings. She said, say it one more time so you can hear it. I said, we're human beings. And she said, now I want you to say it backwards, but I want you to say it slow. I said, we're being human. She said, say it one more time. I had a 3-second pause in between. I said, we're being human. She said, when are you going to allow yourself to be human? And it hit me like a ton of bricks.
It just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Because my trauma tells me that I have to be superhuman. My trauma tells me that I can't revel in the moment. I always have to be looking for the movement. I can't stay in the now. I always have to be thinking about the next. I always have to be thinking to being able to see around corners. That's what my trauma tells me. My trauma tells me that you can't sit still, because the moment that you sit still, somebody's going to think that you're not showing up as the best version of yourself. That's what my trauma tells me. But being human tells me It's okay to actually experience the loss of a father and to have moments of emotional paralysis that may come up in unexpected ways. We don't schedule grief. Jackie, you don't wake up one day and be like, you know what, today is going to be the day that my husband files divorce. Right? You don't wake up and Clover didn't wake up one day and say, you know something, this is going to be the day that I'm going to get a call that my son is murdered. You don't schedule that. And so in the being human allows yourself, even after you have experienced those things, when they start coming up for you, you can say, you know something, I don't got to run from this. I don't have to run from this. I can be human. I can be the mother that I've been gifted to be. I can be the person that I've been gifted to be. And that's what therapy is teaching me.
Do you even understand how incredible your vulnerability is for people to hear someone successful, evolved, right?
Say it now.
Right? It is refreshing. It is something men need to hear. It's impressive. And wow, you blew me away. Like I just took what you said and said, wow, Jackie, you don't have to be perfect. Like I'm thinking about these things that you're saying, and I go to therapy. So my therapist must suck because quite frankly, she's never said to me, what are we? Right, Clover? Like
Depends
the
on what type of insurance you have.
vulnerability, Lewis, thank you for sharing. And it's so important.
Right. And you know what? Um, Thank you, Lois. And also, Glenn is not here, but I thank him also because both of them have encouraged me to go to therapy. And I just started therapy. But I know that when you first came on, you came on very cocky. But let me say this, you have rechristened yourself and now you have evolved. So you embodied everything.
Wait, 1 second. What do you mean when I came on? I came on this
Oh,
broadcast house?
yes, you came on like, yeah, but you
I say arrogant, but nah.
I would
I'm
say
only
assertive.
teasing.
I would say assertive, but there's a lot of estrogen in the room. Well, maybe not. Jackie's estrogen level is
Menopause.
diminished because Clover is like two days away from it, but
Yeah, I'm vulnerable about it. I'm sorry.
so this is a brave state. Go ahead, Clover.
exactly what an evolved man is, right? And just, it's a lot of men don't want to talk about going to therapy. They don't want to admit that they have issues. But for you to really come out and say that, that is so refreshing. And I appreciate that about you. I always love a lot of things about you. One of the things that I told you lately is that I love how you show up now. It's not when you text, it's not this one word. And I used to hate, well, just, hey, that's it. Nothing else. And I'm like, no,
Hey, I just got a text before from him. Just saw this.
yeah, no,
I sent him 2 paragraphs.
um, well, I mean, Louis, I am so proud of you, really and truly proud of you. And that is
Yeah.
basically what an evolved man is.
Well, look. Let me share this. I'm proud of us. Let me. I know that both of you are too modest to brag on yourself, so I'll point the personal privilege and do so. From the time that I've seen you come out of prison, Clover, and considering the challenges that you've had emotionally within the space of this nonprofit industrial complex, you have continued to demonstrate like the resiliency of a spring in the ballpoint pen. And that's something that's admirable. Many people don't know because you don't talk about this publicly, but you lost a child. Like that's not only did you lose a child, but you lost a child prior to you going into federal prison. Like you think about that. You not only do you have to deal with the emotional heaviness and emotional weight of having lost a child, somebody that you carried, somebody that you birthed, somebody that you changed, somebody that you raised, somebody that you nursed. But then compounded by the fact that you lose your freedom as well. And then you turn around and have the heart to want to have a conversation with the person who took your son away from you. That in and of itself is something to be applauded. That in and of itself is something to be celebrated. Even when I think about Jackie, the challenges that she has had being not just a white woman in this space, but the personal things that I won't make public, but I know that she has gone through in order to even get to where she is and where she wants to be. That in and of itself, that takes strength. That takes a degree of belief. That takes a degree of stick to itness to say, in spite of, I'm still going to show up. In spite of how you treat me, in spite of what you say about me, in spite of I may not check the boxes in the way that you want me to check the boxes, or you think that I'm operating in the sense of privilege the way that you think that I'm operating in, in spite of, I'm still going to. That takes strength. That takes courage. And so when I think about remarkability and I think about strength and I think about people who evolve and level up, and when I think about people who embody grace and dignity and the things that we need to see more of, not just in this space but in this world, I often think about both of you guys as well. So I wanted to put that light right back on you.
Oh, that makes me feel really good, and I needed to hear this today because I was having a conversation earlier by text, really, with someone, and I wanted to do something for this person, but unfortunately, I wasn't able. And something that he says, you add to my trauma. You using my trauma against me, and you're not a good person. And I
Mm.
was, wow, wow. And I'm like, I was so hurt because I would never ever use anyone's trauma against them because I know how that feels.
Let me share something with you. The carer in you, the person who puts other people before herself, that's the person that feels some type of way. But let me appeal to the person who you know yourself to be and other people know yourself to be. That person is the person who would have done it if she could have, but you just can't. And you can't allow yourself to be manipulated, or emotionally blackmailed into something. Because let me tell you something about folks. I'm
Oh,
learning this. I just had a birthday 2 days ago. I'm learning this. You are sometimes as good to somebody as the last thing that you've been able to do for them.
Oh, wow. I just said that. Yeah.
Your worth does not extend beyond the last loan that you were able to get them that you still ain't got paid back yet. Beyond the last car ride that you gave them that they ain't give you no gas money for, right? Beyond the last room that you gave them that they ain't even had the audacity to change the sheets. And right, so sometimes when it comes to people, you just got to take that with a grain of salt. You
And
know
I
what?
have to say, and
Yeah,
not to interrupt you, I apologize,
sure.
but
Yeah.
I was in prison with Clover. We didn't really know each other in prison. We were in the same dorm. My bunk was cornered to hers, and I never knew about her son the entire time because all she did was help others.
Mm.
Inside an institution where our freedom was taken away, I watched her and I was intimidated by this woman who taught people how to pray, how to have spirituality, how to love each other. And it's tough in a woman's prison. Who, wow, was just so graceful and beautiful inside and out. And now we're pretty good friends now that I know, right? I know quite a bit. It amazes me that she never once faltered or showed her grief throughout the time I knew her in prison. And that saddens me for her because she's such a beautiful, giving soul
Yeah.
and deserves to have that grief for herself.
Yeah. Yeah, she can be beautiful on Saturdays and she can be given on Sundays, but I don't know about the rest of the days of the week.
Okay, well, due to that, you know what? I need to ask Lewis 5 really quick questions.
Yeah.
Shoot me the answer really quick.
Yep.
Pedicure or manicure?
Both.
Makeup, no makeup.
None.
Movie night, candlelight dinner.
Oil.
Movie night, candlelight dinner.
I like a good movie.
Okay. High heels, flats.
Give me heels. Give me heels.
Lewis Reed or Glenn Martin?
It's definitely. It's going. I mean, it depends. It depends on what you're going for, right? If you're going for like the He-Man look, you want Glenn E. You know what I'm saying? If you want a little suave and sophistication, then you're going with Lewis L.
Well, those are the questions our viewers all wanted to know.
Also, okay, I see that you're a producer now. Do you enjoy this work?
I love this work. Your ceiling on one level needs to be the floor that you stand on the next level. I think that I think that I've plateaued in the policy space. And for me, my next floor that I'm going to stand on will be in the production space.
Wow. Okay. All right. You want to go with, let me see. How do you treat a woman?
Terrible.
Terrible.
You should know. Both of you guys should know. I treat you guys terrible.
Well, I got the one-word text. Clover didn't.
How were you able to accomplish so much in such a short time?
I can tell you that this is going to be about 15-second answer. I wasn't ready. I was prepared. When I was incarcerated, when everybody else was playing, I was praying. When they was lathering themselves with baby oil to send pictures to their baby mamas, I was in the law library. When everybody else was in the gym, I was in the school, in the books. And so what you're seeing is a manifestation of my prayers, me fasting, me, just being prepared and me staying curious and staying connected to people who actually stretch my curiosity.
That's awesome. Let me ask you a question. When you were incarcerated, were you in a relationship with anyone?
I was in several relationships.
Were you a player?
I mean, I think that my 5 children. Wait, no, not how am I saying this? My 5 baby mamas and 3 that I had in 1 year.
They will say you're a player.
Okay.
I don't know what they would say about that, but I had 3 kids in 1 year when I was 17.
Okay. 3 kids in 1 year. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's for another broadcaster.
See, this is where the men would say, "Oh, you go," and this is where the women are like, "Really, you dog?"
Yeah, but I was, keep in mind, I was 17. I was making choices with a different thinking at 17.
Okay. So let me ask you. I'm trying to go do some of the questions here because you blew us away.
Yes, right?
Right? You definitely blew us away. So what are your thoughts on a man disrespecting a woman with curse words?
I mean, I think that is, I'm not big on people disrespecting each other, whether it's a man or a woman to woman or man to man, especially with profanity. I think that when people curse, it's an ignorant mind trying to express itself. I do think that maybe profanity has its place for some people, but I think that you diminish your value, you diminish your power. There's a way that if you're Glenn E. Martin and you're doing your Saturday morning rants, it actually enhances your power. But I just think that, people should be treated with respect, and you should treat people in your life as if that's your father, as if that's somebody else's son, as if that's somebody else's daughter, if that's somebody else's mama, auntie, uncle, etc. Right? Like, you got to treat people like they're human beings. And so I've always been that type of person where I'm not the type of person where I'm just going to be throwing profanity, like I'm going to go on a profanity laced tirade. That's just not me.
That's a good question, Jackie. So do you think that has anything to do with love if someone treats you that way?
I think that it has to do with love as they define it or as they know it to be. You have to consider that every person was someone who was exposed to life experiences prior to going into that relationship. And so what you may see is an extension of how this man may have been saw his father treat his mom. Somebody in the neighborhood treat their significant other. And so I think that that's probably an extension of what it is that they've been exposed to.
Mm.
Okay, great.
And
So
just FYI, I got 6 more minutes because I got a hard out at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So we're about to close.
we
I hope so.
are.
In and you came in cocky, right? And you blew up, but we blew you up as well. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation.
Jackie had a question. Why are you closing
I
out?
have one. Well, I don't have a question. I have one thing to say. So,
Oh.
A Beautiful Heart Ministries and Evolution Reentry will be combining forces to do a fundraiser. $5 people can put in, and the winner gets a lunch with Lewis Reed or Glenn E. Martin.
Wait, no, wait. Listen, you have to. You have
See
to.
what we can raise.
Listen. Lewis
Yes.
L. Reed. Lewis L. Reed. If you're gonna put the
Lewis
E in
L.
Glenn,
Reed
if you're
and
gonna put
Glenn
the E in
E.
Glenn,
Martin.
there we go. Yeah, we got
$5.
we got middle initials around here.
The person who donates the most gets the lunch of the choice.
So what? As a matter of fact, this is dropping on Valentine's Day. What do you plan to do for Valentine's Day?
I will be working. I'll be in Washington D.C. I'll be out there working on some production stuff.
And Jackie, what would you be doing for Valentine's Day?
Putting on my pajamas, popping some popcorn. I'm gonna watch this show called Unprisoned. I heard it was pretty good.
Yeah, I heard it's a season 2
Right.
coming out as well.
Yeah, right. All right.
Wait, who you gonna be boo loving with though? I think that's the question, Dr. Perez. Who you gonna be boo loving with?
None of your business.
That's exactly right, Clover.
Yeah,
There's some things that need to stay private.
That's right. Not for public consumption.
This is great. Any final thoughts, words before we go?
Well, look, I just want to say this. It's been a pleasure having a conversation. But again, I think that when we make conversations binary and we don't reach, across the human aisle and pull people in, we'll continue to have kind of these battles of the sexes. And so for me, I think that we are better together than we can ever be apart from one another, no matter how you identify, whether it's a man, woman, somewhere in the middle, halfway or hybrid version of stuff. I don't know. But I do think that we are together going to be much better than we are going to be apart from one another.
United we stand.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. We really enjoy this. It was awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. Wait, do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Later.
Thank you. This was wonderful, Clover. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.